You're listening to an Airwave Media Podcast.
Feel like who art ed?
Try to slice it.
Who art ed? Mr. Wood art ed me.
Good. Either way, it's ambiguous. It works on so many levels.
I know.
That's off to a great start.
Welcome to Who Arted, weekly art history for all ages. I'm your host, Kyle Wood, and today we are going to be talking about one of my old favorite artists, kind of the inspiration for why I got into art. And I have the perfect guest to talk about this because I know my old friend, Jen Lieben from The Art of Education, is not a huge fan of Claude Monet. But thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show, Jen Lieben. I really appreciate it.
Anytime you need a hater, I'm your woman.
You call yourself a hater, and yet, the instant I said, oh, you know what, this would be perfect because, I want to have a little bit of back and forth and dialogue on this. You were like, Yep, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
You are a wonderful human being. And, currently you are doing all of the outreach for the Art of Education, doing like the community stuff. Can you tell listeners, because I know a lot of art teachers listen to this, what are you doing on the community?
Yeah. So I now work full time from home. It's the best job ever, by the way. But I work on the Art of Ed community, like the online platform. So I always describe it to people as like, it's sort of like a subreddit, sort of like a Facebook group, only the advantage is that it's not Facebook and it's not other social media. It's our own private thing for just art teachers to like talk about art teacher stuff and, sometimes other stuff, but really we're just there to support each other because not everybody has a large, robust art department full of supportive friends, but that's what we aim to be. And I just get to be like the director that connects people and, oh, you're high school too. And let's talk about assessment or haystacks, that sort of stuff.
And I describe it as like social media, but healthy, because it is a wonderfully supportive community. I know I've been on there probably more than any other social media. I've consciously stepped back from social media over the last couple of years just because I haven't been on Twitter since, the fact that I still refer to it as Twitter probably gives you a pretty good indicator of how long it's been.
Well, that was about the time I deleted mine. Which was it was a really hard decision too, because I was there for like 10 years and that was how I first made all my connections. That was how I first found other art teachers like out in the world because I did feel really alone. So that was where it started. So it's funny that like where it began and where I am now, like how it started and where I am now, like it's the same, searching for that same thing, only in such a different, it looks so different. It looks different now, but better.
And that's funny because Twitter is actually how I first found you before I realized we lived in the same community back in the day.
I know.
But, those online spaces are fantastic. And for fellow art teachers who want to join the Art of Ed community, check the links in the show notes. I will, of course, put it in there, as well as just for bonus, link to the articles that people have been nice enough to let me write for the Art of Ed back in the day. On the topic of like positive stuff with social media, I do just want to give a shout out to my friends at PodRanker. The website has listed me as one of the best art history podcasts. And I'm always thrilled to get that kind of, affirmation. So thank you very much. And if you're looking for podcasts in different categories and stuff, PodRanker has lists of the best in all sorts of different fields. So
That's awesome.
You can check that link in the show notes as well. Now, on to the actual topic for today. We're going to be talking about Claude Monet. And I know I've done multiple episodes on Claude Monet, but I wanted to put his haystacks, or I guess probably more accurately, wheat stacks, into the Arts Madness tournament. And today is the official launch of the Arts Madness tournament. I'm super excited. 64 diverse artists for you to look at and consider and pick out which do you like in every matchup. Just which one is better, pick your favorite, vote. The best ones will move on. And we will whittle it down from 64 down to one ultimate artist or artwork. So, I brought you on, Jen, because when we talked about Barbara Kruger, you were like, I could spend a whole episode talking about why I don't like Claude Monet. And fair. I see and I get a lot of the criticisms and backlash. But what's your objection to his work and the
I
style?
want to give you a
the
chance
impressions?
to smack talk it.
No, I don't want to be just like, here's everything I love about it, and now tell me what's wrong. I think you should get the first word.
Well, part of me is like, man, I got called to the carpet. I said it, and now I'm being called on it. But I think it's not that I dislike it, because I'm staring at it now, the Stacks of Wheat, the end of summer version. And actually, the colors are beautiful. Okay, so there are things that I like. But just as looking at art in terms of like would I purchase this? Would I hang it in my house? Do I find it exciting to look at? Meh. Nope. Not at all. I mean, like, honestly, like, landscapes in general to me, not, I don't know, the content is just not exciting to me. As far as, like, art with a message, I don't feel like it communicates anything other than, like, this is the thing. Do you know what I mean? I find it boring from a subject standpoint. Now, from a technical standpoint, I actually love drawing, like, realistically. Like, I love nothing more than like a colored pencil drawing and like being challenged to try to like get those colors to blend and mix and make. Like, from a skill standpoint, I love doing it. And then if I do it, I don't even want to look at my own work because it's boring. Like, I'm like, what is, I don't know. It's fun to make. The challenge is good, but then when you're done, you're like, meh, it's cool. Like, I don't know. I'm looking at these haystacks and they just kind of look like lumps. Like, they could be rocks. You could change the grass part to like just blue and it could be like rocks in a water stream.
And that I find really interesting because, you're not alone in that criticism.
Okay.
I can tell you, I myself have even found, like, caught myself looking at like the haystack series. I mean, dozens of haystacks in a field.
Yeah.
Wake me up when it's over.
Yeah.
And I can get into some of the justification for that, but like Kandinsky, you may have heard of him.
Yeah.
He famously looked at Monet's haystacks, and I should say technically they're wheat stacks. It's a wheat or oats in a field.
What's the difference between wheat and hay? I don't know. Like a haystack and a wheat stack.
It's just like different. It's just different plants. Like they basically like harvested grains.
Okay.
Whereas the wheat is the hay and stuff, like, think more like straw and stuff like that.
Oh. Okay.
So it was basically like they would harvest the grain, pile it up, put it out in the field, and then they would put like a thatched roof over the top of it that would protect it from the elements.
Okay.
Now, why specifically he chose the wheat stacks and stuff actually gets to, like, 19th century agrarian farm practices. But the short thing with that is they would harvest all the grain at the end of summer. So like, say August-ish. And then they would stack it up in the field, letting the stuff dry out. They put the thatched roofing over the top of it to protect it. And then, since the farmers didn't have their own thrashers, like it's big, heavy machinery, it would go from farm to farm. And so sometimes these things would be out in the field for months before it would be threshed. So if you're Claude Monet and you're looking to do a study on a subject that's going to be perfectly still in different lighting conditions and everything like that, the wheat stack is a perfect subject, because I'm not going to sit still and be in the same pose for months on end, but the wheat stack has nothing better to do.
That's true. It's so funny because you're telling me this story about the wheat that's sitting there and is waiting for the thresher to come by. And all my brain can think of is like, oh, so if I decided to be a modern day Claude Monet, I would do paintings of the piles of leaves out in the street that sit all waiting for the street cleaners to come. I don't know if they do that in your neighborhood. Yeah. But we all have to rake our leaves like out into the street, and they sit there like all season until like one day this big machine comes by and like sucks up all the leaves. That's the modern version of the haystacks, leaf piles.
Similar thing, because depending on how great your municipality is. back to my original thing where you said like it could be so many other things. Kandinsky looked at this work and he said he was like indignant because he said he couldn't tell what it was without reading the catalog of the exhibition.
Yeah.
And to him, it was like, how dare you, sir, painting something so indiscriminately?
Why, I never.
Because you got to remember, like Kandinsky had a background in like law and economics and like that whole side of the brain before he went on to I want to use giant air quotes here, but invent abstract art and abstract painting. But like he was so scandalized by seeing this work that was so indiscriminate in his opinion and so inscrutable, I guess, or hard to read. He then later looked back and was like, if this has been living rent-free in my brain for all this time and I've been puzzling over it, maybe there is something to this and the ambiguity. And that's how he, you know, at least was one catalyst for his push towards more abstract and looser work and all the experimentation that he was doing and the art theory and criticism that he was putting out. So like, I think in some ways it's like, it's really interesting, not so much necessarily because of the subject of the wheat, but the way that he got us thinking about stuff in a different way.
So it kind of bridged the gap between like more traditional realism and the full on abstract. Because like as I'm staring at this now and you see like the blotches of paint and the kind of almost pointillism-y, you know, like work, not as dotty. I don't know.
Yeah.
These are very technical art terms, by the way, dotty. So I can see that because yes, you don't always know what it is until you read the name of it. But like once I know the name, like stacks of wheat, like we all know it now because we just know it. Like once you say it, it's like, oh yeah, I totally see it. But at first I can see, yeah, because it's not 100% realism either. So yeah, it is this weird in betweenness, again, technical art term, in betweenness, dotty.
Well, because, you know, it's 1890 and when he was painting this. And so that was before European painters had a concept of abstract art. He was getting looser. And to me, I always think of it as that sort of step towards our modern conceptions of art and thinking about art beyond just like representation because of the reaction to the camera, obviously mid-19th century. I always tell my students, like, imagine you spent your whole life learning how to admirably render something with accurate lines, shapes, and proportions, and then this box comes along that can do it in a matter of minutes more accurately than you could in a month. What are you going to do? And Monet and others, I think, logically, the choice would be compete in the areas where the camera couldn't capture it. Yeah. The camera didn't have imagination and the camera couldn't capture color.
That's an interesting allegory to like now and AI and like what are the things that AI can't do? Well, most things we're learning, but you know, but again, it's like if you're a writer and you know, you can also plug in and get something out. Granted, is it, you know, the whole nother argument, but it's a similar kind of philosophical dilemma. You know, like what can we do? How can we show why we are better? You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I mean, I think that AI comparison is really strong because like with an AI can generate facts and research for you that, you know, is generally reliable now, much more reliable than it was a year ago. Yeah. But a writer has to develop their voice and their lens that, you know, it hits different when something has that human touch to it. And I think that's part of the reason that I appreciate these brushstrokes. I appreciate being able to see this stuff. You know, I get the sense that like he was genuinely rushing in the field to capture what he saw. I've read accounts that say he would bring a like a wheelbarrow full of canvases out in the field, and he would be painting on one for like 15 minutes and then grab another canvas because the light shifted and he wanted to paint another one really quickly, and then another one, so that he could capture all of these different studies. And then of course I do want to have like that. Let's be real here. He was not finishing a painting in 15 minutes. Like we all have this romantic idea of the impressionists and plein air, like just painting what he sees out in the field. But he was like, he would make a rough draft in the field very quickly, and then he would bring it to his studio and work on it. And then he would look at them in series, in sequence, and like, I think he wanted to have a nice flow and transition from one to the other. So it is definitely a little bit of like inspired by observation and not direct scientific study, as we might say.
Yeah. There are things that I appreciate. I appreciate like the lack of like pure black and like dark in there. And then I like that, you know, the light and they appear pinks and reds, and like there's something very rainbow about it, which is appealing to me. I like that. I like the style. I like the brushstrokes. I think I'm just really stuck on. I'm really stuck on the subject matter. Like if he had painted something else, maybe I would like it more. Like could he have done some skulls? Come on.
You know what I find funny there is, you know, you said you like the lack of black, and yet you want the skulls, but
rainbow skulls. Come on, that would be rad.
it would be pretty rad. But also, if I'm being honest, the fact that there is no, it doesn't necessarily have to be black, but there's no like almost black or super dark value in here really bothers me, because everything gets to be this mid-range.
Yeah.
And I like the variety of colors, and I like the idea of using complementary colors in the shadows. It doesn't have to be straight to black right away, but I wish there were a little bit wider range of values in this composition to make it a little stronger.
I could see that, yeah.
Just because, you know, as a work of art, as a painting, I like a little bit. I like things a little bit bolder, and maybe that's just because with my old man eyes, I can see things better when it's higher contrast.
Well,
you know?
and my brain was kind of like, well, maybe it was darker originally, and over time it just got lightened. Do you think? I don't know. It's over 100 years old. I don't know.
It is over 100 years old. Oil paints are generally pretty stable, but this is also the time. Like it's. I would say I don't know enough about Monet's pigment uses to give a strong answer on that, because I know that Van Gogh was like an early adopter of synthetic pigments, and so some of his stuff has noticeably changed over time because of the way that molecules interact in the atmosphere and stuff, like the pigments and stuff oxidizing and stuff like that. Monet, I don't know a lot about his, but that time period, the tube of paint was a 19th century invention, and so there was a lot more happening with development of different colorants and stuff like that. And some of them were a little bit more light fast than others. Yeah. Given that the specific work we're looking at here is the Stacks of Wheat End of Summer, which is housed at the Art Institute of Chicago, I'm reasonably confident that their conservators are taking pretty good care of the piece. Yeah. I think they tend to know what they're doing a little bit better than I do on this stuff. But I think, it looks pretty good overall. I do like that it has this semi-abstract quality that you know, you see also in some of his later water lilies paintings, where we don't see the ground, we just see things floating in there. And it's like these wheat stacks are kind of floating in the field because everything is that kind of mid-range in terms of like the values. The horizon, from a distance, the horizon kind of falls away to me, like that sky and ground become very similar
Yes. Yeah. Like just staring at it now, like just while you're sitting here talking, I'm like, I think that's a house in the background. And I never saw that before because it just like blends in.
Yeah. Is there anything else you wanted to say about this piece?
Oh, I think the only other thing I would want to mention about well, not this piece exactly, but growing up in Illinois, in the Chicago suburbs, like, and because the Art Institute has all these impressionist paintings, I think that kind of tarnished me too. Like it was like, because that's our thing and we have this, so therefore you're supposed to like it. And I don't know, the like angsty teenager in me is like, no, I'm going to like what I want to like. Do you know what I mean? Like it's an unfair mark against it. Do you know, like it has no rhyme or reason, but that's why I feel the way I do, I think.
No, I think that makes perfect sense. I think a lot of us have that little contrarian streak where it's like everybody talks about Monet is so great and the Impressionists is so great. And it is so broadly appealing that it does leave you almost suspicious.
Like,
right?
Do you think Monet is the Taylor Swift of painters?
I don't know enough about Taylor Swift to comment on that.
Oh, I mean, in terms of popularity, like who would be?
So, like the Impressionist movement is one of the most famous and popular movements out there. I think largely because a lot of people see it as kind of apolitical and it's soft colors that are easy to look at. And it's not the grand historical allegorical paintings and stuff like that. But if I could like get on a soapbox a little bit, like when we talk about stuff from mythology, that is basically the same as looking at comic books for inspiration. You're just looking at an older version. It's just like, because it has this connection with antiquity, it gets this patina that like, you know, it's so grand and solid and everything like that. But, this stuff, they shied away from that. They were like unabashedly just like contemporary for their moment, what they're seeing, what they're observing, what they liked. And a lot of people forget that in the day, it was highly controversial. Impressionism was revolutionary. It was because while we say like, oh, it's you know, not political, it's just stuff in the fields. A rejection of politics is a political statement in and of itself.
Fair.
You know, to say that I'm going to focus on scenes from everyday life instead of the grand tradition of historical paintings and stuff like that is inherently uplifting those marginalized subjects that were often overlooked in a lot of ways. The Impressionist exhibition was derided. I mean, that's where the whole name even comes from. Yeah. You know, making fun of Monet's Impression Sunrise. Was it Louis Leroy, or it was a Louis someone? A critic.
Don't quiz me.
No, it's killing me because I know I've talked about this in previous episodes, but like the first Impressionist exhibition was actually called like the Exhibition of Independent Painters, Printmakers, Sculptors, etc. And it was just like super mouthful kind of a title, but the critic saw Impression Sunrise in that exhibition and then titled his critique of the work as the Exhibition of the Impressionists, saying that wallpaper in its embryonic stages is more developed than these pieces. So, like, I don't know that Taylor Swift would be a comparison because of the fact that like most people really liked her, and now there's a backlash because of her fame, but the Impressionists were really more of like the underdogs, and I'm trying to think.
So you're saying at the time,
at the time I would put them more as like a Green Day, you know.
I like Green Day, Kyle. Don't you compare them to Impressionists?
I love Green Day. I
know, but you know how I feel about them Impressionists. Come on.
But really they were the unruly by the standards of the day.
In the standards of the day, Impressionism was punk rock.
Kinda, yeah.
Okay.
You know, you talk about like the gardens and the landscapes as being so tranquil and everything like that, but like Monet's garden, actually, like he was kind of rebellious with his garden. He brought in plants from around the world that like were not native to the area, and people were worried about invasive species, and this is going to poison the water supply by having these foreign water lilies floating in the pond and other
people
and
still
bamboo
say that.
and stuff like that. And so like they tried to put limits on how many plants he could put in that garden in Gavarni. And he just kind of like broke all those rules. He even, I guess, got tired of dust being kicked up from the public road. So he paid to have the public road near his property paved with blacktop going over it, just like his own private crew paved over the public road, because he was irritated with it, like getting dirt and dust kicked up on his beautiful plants.
If I had the money, I'm just gonna say if I had the money and the means, I might do the same thing. So can't hate on that. You know? No,
can't hate on somebody who helps with public works.
True.
Improving the infrastructure for everybody.
True.
So yeah, that's kind of Claude Monet, like the most kind of laid back punk rock painter you'll ever see.
Laid back but punk rock. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you have strong opinions for or against Monet or dozens of other artists, be sure to check the links in the show notes, because voting is now open for round 1 of Arts Madness. And do me a favor, while you're there, please give a listen to other episodes. Maybe you'll find something new that you didn't realize is actually kind of more awesome and transgressive than you at first realized. And finally, most of all, thank you so much, Jen Lieben from The Art of Ed, for coming to join me on the show. And I would encourage all my fellow art teachers to check out the Art of Ed community.
Thank you for having me, Kyle. I'm happy anytime to talk smack.
This concludes this week's episode of Who Arted, part of the Airwave Media Podcast Network. If you found this tolerable, please leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. You can find images of the work being discussed this week and every week on social media at Who Arted Podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, and of course on the website whoartedpodcast.com. Podcast done.